Hey, good morning everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for June 1st, 2017. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss, and here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. Right now, there's not a whole lot to do at the moment. We have ADP report coming out in less than an hour. Tomorrow, we have the non-farm payrolls. Because of the holiday shortened week, we also have crude oil today as well, crude oil EIA report. So there's going to be a few things that could provide a catalyst, but right now, what we see is the previous session. I mentioned how narrow the range was on an ADR standpoint or from an ADR standpoint, and that implies that we could see expansion at some point. I mentioned to be cautious of a failed breakdown, which could lead to a slingshot type of move up. And also, if this 2404 half were to fail to hold as support, we could rotate downward. So price pushed below that support in the previous session and then popped right back up and rallied. And that could provide the initial signs here for a continuation to the upside and a push into 2434 half and into the 60 zone, which is basically between 59.75 and 64 half. Those are the next two major upside targets here. But to be honest, this thing really isn't setting up really well at the moment. Overall, it's been very quiet. And I think we may need to continue to let this thing play out before engaging any meaningful opportunity at this time. So just watching this play out, and then we'll try to get a better sense of how this thing may develop over the next day or two. But right now, 2404 half is the major pivot to watch. Above or below that zone will really lead to the next key or clear directional move. On an intraday basis, there's only a 4-handle overnight range right now, really nothing to speak of. So again, got to be careful, wait for the opportunities as they come. In crude oil, this one right here played off that 48 level that we mentioned the previous session. I mentioned bulls have been defending that level, but any failure to hold it could lead to a rotation back down. Price dropped below 48 briefly, and then a squeeze came back later in the day, so a squeeze back into the range occurred. But right now, we're still seeing chop above and below that composite VPOC. Here's chop below it, chop above it, chop below it. And again, nothing really clear setting up at this time. We currently see how the previous session's low 2 sessions ago holding as resistance. That could lead to an opportunity to continue or extend this current down move back toward 46.69 and lower. But again, right now, nothing really setting up too clearly in the higher time frame. In the lower time frame intraday chart, we are seeing some decent movement overall. Again, the intraday volatility has been pretty significant in the previous session. You're seeing some more movement here today. I'd keep an eye on the previous session's close, 48.63. It was resistance at first, then when offered, may become resistant again. But that's a key pivot right now. Above it opens up 49s. Failure to get back above that zone will extend this thing back toward recent lows, 47.73. So keep an eye on that pivot. Taking a look at gold futures right here. Overall, in a higher time frame, gold has seen a nice decent rally, but is starting to fizzle just a little bit. We've seen a nice move in this thing climb up. We've gotten close to our 1280s. Here's support at about 1260 has held very nicely. So that's going to continue to be the pivot there. Holding above that zone would continue this thing a little bit higher. Failure to hold that area would rotate it back down. So right now, bulls want to keep an eye on keeping 1260s bid for a potential push higher. But again, as I mentioned, this thing isn't really setting up too well at the moment. Lastly, the NQ. NQ has been in a straight bullish uptrend. This recent pullback offered a significant buying opportunity once price really started to push back above 56.39. We've seen it push through the recent highs of 57.27 and hit the 50% expansion now. What I mentioned in the previous session was any pullback into 57.27 could offer a solid buying opportunity for a push into 59.04, the next key level above. So that's kind of the path right now. As long as 57.27 remains intact, we could be looking at a continuation toward 59.04, which is the next upside target above on a short-term basis. Failure to hold 57.27 could rotate this thing right back toward 55 550 on a swing basis. But right now, bulls have the upper hand. All right, that's it for now. Quickly, I have a quick update right now. If you take a look at PivotBosscom and click on news here, you'll see our latest post. Basically, if you click on that monthly June outlook there, you'll get an update on today's meeting. Basically, you can join later on today. This is how you join. It's going to be at 3:30 p.m. Central. We'll get together for a monthly market outlook, very similar to what we did last May. If you want to look at last May, there's a link right here to click. May 1st, that's when we got into the monthly market outlook, provided some calls. One of the calls was buying or looking to defend 290 in Netflix. That worked out perfectly. So here's May 1st, price rotates into 290, and now we see a new high here at 342.89 the previous session. A very solid move overall, and continues to look like it has more strength ahead toward 397. You can watch that analysis of Tesla here when I provided it. And again, you can meet me later on, 3:30 p.m. this afternoon Central Time. We'll get together and talk about the June monthly outlook and review some futures stocks, and I'll take requests as well. So all that information is right here. You can click on news and click on this post, and you'll be able to get to that information. All right, I'm looking forward to seeing you all later on in the trading room and in the monthly market outlook. I'll see you soon. Take care, folks.